Welcome, everyone, to TJ and the Old Man, a twice-a-week sports podcast where I, your host, TJ, and the Grumpy Old Man talk sports and shoot the shit. Now, with Grumpy, they say, there's no shame in his game because he is always the same, Grump.
That's correct. You botched the introduction. What a shock. Not surprised. And that's what you get. Then you try to, save it, but to no avail.
I tried, Grumpy. I tried to save it. I was trying to keep you on your feet, making sure you're paying attention earlier on in the show, Grump.
So you're trying to say that you're trying to keep me on the feet with your failure. Is that correct?
That is correct, Grumpy. Trying to keep you sharp, trying to keep your wits about you, Grump. That being said, Grump, there's been some news in the sporting world since our last show on Thursday evening. But before we get in deep dive into these items, we go live every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're new to the show, we invite you to stick around a while. We invite you to subscribe on YouTube, to like on Facebook, and follow on Twitter. But Grump, I think, number one, I think that there's been a few items, not necessarily in the biggest of sports in the United States. That being said, I think the MLB and the MLBPA having one day left in order to get the deal sealed. Otherwise, they're going to have a little bit of a delay regarding the start of the season. I think that's kind of taking center stage at the moment.
Yeah. And last night it was like doom and gloom. But then today, John Heyman, who's a very respected baseball journalist, says that the deal is close, that the big hurdle is still the luxury tax dollar amounts.
All I'm going to say is that, and I saw that tweet because I'm talking about just like a few hours ago, this information started coming out. They just got out of meetings. But when you see MLB players like Zach Britton and say this is not accurate, and you see other sources saying they're not as close as John Heyman's making it out to be, that does bring up, a sign for question for me at least.
Well, is Zach Britton, is he a player rep for the Yankees?
I couldn't tell you what he does. I know he's a pitcher, though.
Because, I don't know if he's a player rep or not. And the reason why that's important to me, I just think the rank and file has no idea what's going on. But if Britton is like a player rep, he maybe has a little bit more information.
He might be. And it's funny, right? You're seeing there's been a lot of misinformation, at least on this as of recent, kind of going back and forth. And the item that I'm kind of looking at, Grump, when I watch this situation unfold, I think to myself, you have some MLB players saying, "Oh, this is not, a fight between the millionaires and the billionaires. This is a fight between owners and employees." And I'm like, no. This is a fight between millionaires and billionaires is exactly what this is. Don't need to go ahead and try to, dilute the actual issue.
And the millionaires are employees of the billionaires, even though I don't think I don't think the majority of their owners are billionaires. But
hundreds of millions or whatever.
Yes,
you don't get to own an MLB team if you're light in the pocketbook.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I just, what I don't think they realize on either side is baseball's really kind of dropped with popularity, and you really don't want to continue down that path, do you? I would think not. I would think you do everything you could to start the game on time. I think you do everything you could to make the game more appealing to younger fans.
And I'll zoom in for this for you, Grump, because I know you might have a hard time seeing this now.
Absolutely.
Evan, I cannot pronounce his last name to save my life. But he said
Drellick.
Evan Drellick here, who writes for The Athletic and has been covering the MLB, MLBPA, CBA negotiations for its entirety so far, says there was some sense of productivity today, but the gap on key issues remains large. Tomorrow is the deadline day. They're meeting earlier in the day than they had yet. Notable, no one suggested Sunday brought significant momentum or a breakthrough. So temper the urge to be excited. And again, that was tweeted 3 minutes ago now. And this is kind of what the opinion I had on it as well. I know John Heyman said they were pretty close. I was seeing a lot of conflicting reports of that statement that he made, though.
Yeah, when they say it's not about money, it's always about money. Who's going to get their share of the pie? Scott Boras, who's been an agent, a super agent for Major League Baseball for years and years and years.
Decades,
he's been involved.
Decades.
Yes. He's been involved in these negotiations. And the way he always has done it, whenever he negotiates contracts, he waits till the last second. And then he figures he's got the team over a barrel, and that's how he gets his best deal. And he's been really, really good getting that deal. I don't know if that's going to work with the owners, with the group of owners. We'll see. But I would have liked to see them be a little bit more progressive in getting a deal done before the 11th hour.
I mean, that's assuming it even gets done tomorrow. I think they're far apart on big items. I'm not sure it's getting done. If you give me a chip and say, hey, go to Vegas, you putting it done that this gets done tomorrow or not, I'm saying probably not. You're going to look at a shortened season.
And all they do is hurt themselves. That's all they do is hurt themselves. Think about it. When COVID hit, right? Major League Baseball, everything else had shut down. Major League Baseball had a real opportunity to just take off, being the only sport on the planet being played, and they screwed the pooch on that because they just can't get out of their own way sometimes. It's unfortunate. When I was a kid, baseball was the number one sport, even bigger than the NFL, if you can believe that.
You talk about the personalities. I feel like back in your day, Grump, too, the personalities of baseball and MLB players were more advertised than they are now. You think to yourself, the personalities, the personas of these superstars in the league, you really don't get to know who they are as players. So tough.
Well, they try to
have a more vested interest.
They try to homogenize everything, where and people are afraid to say anything, afraid to be themselves, because who knows what they could get canceled in some way, shape, or form, or so everyone is very guarded about what they say. It wasn't like when I was a kid. It certainly wasn't like that at all. I mean, bullets flying everywhere. Just everyone's not afraid to have an opinion. But now it's like everybody's the same. The body types of all the players are the same. They all do the same thing. It's like they come out of a cookie cutter almost. Just look at. I remember Carl Yastrzemski used to swing the bat. He'd have the bat start up over his head, or you had Bert Campaneris in the crouch. You really don't see too much of that anymore. Guys having different, even just the way they approach hitting, or pitchers doing certain things. Al Hrabowski used to do crazy stuff on the mound, the Mad Hungarian as a relief pitcher. Mark the Bird Fidrich. You just don't see anything like that anymore. And it's a shame. Those guys were hugely popular because they were different. And you just don't see that anymore, really. It's a shame. It's a shame.
It's taken a little bit of the personality out of the game. And I think you are right. I think it's an apt way to put it up. Everybody is kind of more cookie cutter-esque. I'm trying to remember who the hell was the batter that he would have it. I'm talking about, oh man, he would have his hand all the way. He'd have his one hand there on the tape and the other one towards the top end of the bat and towards the barrel of the bat. And he would slide his hand down as the pitch would come in. I'm trying to remember who played a very, very long time.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Greg. I don't know.
Greg. Oh yeah. Greg. I remember him.
Franco. Maybe his name was Franco. I'm trying to think.
Julio Franco?
Maybe Julio Franco. I'll have to pull it up.
I don't remember that. I really don't. So, but yeah, players don't.
Julio Franco would. Yes, I'll pull up his batting stance. This is who, and he used to go ahead and slide. And maybe it wasn't him who slid his hand down he would have it like at the barrel, and he'd slide his hand down towards closer towards his power hand down there towards the tape. And I'm trying to think, that stance was, iconic for him. But the stances, you're right, they're all kind of cookie cutter now.
Players don't even have nicknames anymore. Goose Gossage, the Mad Hungarian. Could you imagine anybody calling him the Mad Hungarian now? Yeah, but see, his hands were together.
I'm trying to think. There was a batter, and I cannot remember. He would have one hand there towards the tail end and one hand all the way up at the barrel. He would slide his hand down. I'll have to try to pull it up.
I just want to make a point, if you can leave that picture up. Now, that's how he started his stance, but when the pitcher went into his windup, he'd slide back to be more normal because you could never hit a ball like that. But it was all a comfort level, right? What coaches and trainers, what used to happen, if you felt good like that and you could hit the ball, they're not going to change you. Now at lower levels, even the young kids playing, it's like, nope, you're going to have to start like this. Everybody does it the same. We want to change everything. No, when I was coaching, if a kid was doing it the wrong way, what you would classify the wrong way, and they were getting results, I never changed them, ever. Because that's just how they felt comfortable. Craig Counsell was another one. He used to hold his hands over his head. But when the pitch comes in, you wind up getting into the regular batting stance. You just don't see anything like that. It's like everything is home run, strikeout, walk. Then you got the shift. I mean, it's like, it's analytics just gone crazy.
Kevin Youkilis was the guy who I'm thinking of that would slide his hand all the way down.
Okay.
There it is. I'll pull it up here. I could not remember to save my life. I knew that Franco had an odd one too, but I could not remember who it was who would do this, where they'd slide their hand down the barrel of the bat and they'd have this odd, unique style. You just don't see odd, unique batting stances anymore. They're all, you're right, they're homogenized. They're all the exact same or very similar, where we just kind of stay in.
Because, parents see money. That's what they see. Hey, my kid could be a baseball player. Let's send him to this camp, that camp. And they tinker, and, everybody's the same. It's a shame. Part of baseball throughout history was the quirkiness of players and, just their personalities. You just don't see that anymore. It's a shame.
You remember Bagwell? You remember Bagwell's stance? Now that I'm looking at this one too.
Yeah.
look at just like you would never see anybody like this in a stance like this in the MLB today. You would never see, and again, there's just so many stances you would never see anymore.
But the whole thing is, when you see a pitch coming in, he straightens up. But that's how he feels most comfortable. And that's the whole thing. To be a good hitter, you have to be comfortable at the plate.
And does it sound like we're picking apart something oh so minute? Absolutely we are. I think that every single one of these minute areas, this had the character, right? When you saw a guy come up the bat like this, you would never mistake it, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly who that is at the bat. Oh, if I'm seeing him flick his bat like that, that's Gary Sheffield. You didn't have to think to yourself, okay, let me see who it is. Unless I watch every single game, I might have to decipher it. You could watch a game or two, and you're like, who the hell is this guy who's swinging his bat? He's got a whole bunch of bat movement before the ball comes in. Oh, that's Gary Sheffield, right? You only need to see it once or twice, and it's his personality. It's who that player was at the bat, and you're able to be like, wow, it's special, it's different, and it would keep you a little intrigued. Everybody had a little bit of difference to them.
When we were kids, playing out in the fields, just, playing baseball, we would pretend we were those hitters and we would do their hitting stances. Absolutely, we would. It's just, it's just imitation, right? It's the greatest form of flattery. But now you just don't see any of that. Okay, hey, here you go. It's like the whole thing. But now here's the thing. When I was coaching, if a kid couldn't hit, I try to teach him to do it the right way. But like I said, I've had players who, could hit and produce, and they had quirky stances, and people would say, well, you want to change that. We want to change his stance. Parents tell me you want to change the stance because, this is not going to be conducive to being a good hitter. I'm like, guess what? It works for him. Don't change it. If something happens,
Ichiro Suzuki's weird ass approach at the plate. Yeah. I'm like, it's what made him, and it made him extremely successful. It's not like you could say, I need to slap together a Derek Jeter, hands high, just stand there with a good solid base, and we swing and we go ahead and go top down. Not everybody's successful with that type of style.
Yeah, and the whole thing is, I remember when my dad always would get the elbow up, get the elbow up, get the elbow up. It was never get the elbow up. Okay, why did they tell you to get the elbow up? Because if your elbow's up, what does it do with your hands? It raises your hands. It's hands up. You look at when guys are swinging, they're not swinging like this. Their elbows are down. It's hands. It's all about hands. Just, but hey, everything changes over time. But you're right, TJ. Everything's homogenized. And
you're the one who brought up the point, and I said, my God, that's good. Even look at Rod Carew, Hall of Fame guys. Yeah. You just think to yourself, I'm like, nobody comes to the plate with anything like this because and again, when you saw Rod Carew come back up the plate, it wasn't like, oh, who is that? You would see the stance. You're like, that's Rod Crew. There was no, it wasn't like I've got to focus in on it. They're all kind of the same. They're all uniform out there. It was different. It's what separated him. I mean, obviously a great player, but it's one of those extra parts that separates him from the million other guys that are out there on the field,
And
on a big field too.
Yeah. And when I was a kid, ball games on TV, 2.5 hours. They were over. You didn't see these 4.5 hour games. Just didn't happen unless you went, 20 innings. I mean, and now the game is so slow. Everyone's taking pitches and the strike zone. Yeah, there's Rod Carew right there. All I need to do is just see, and I can tell. And he did. He had that bat laid back. He won AL batting title, I think, 7 out of 8 years. He was tremendous. Tremendous. Hit the ball anywhere. I remember him for the Twins mostly. Then he went free agent, wound up joining. There's Craig Counsell.
I was about to say, you didn't need if I didn't show you the back of that jersey, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's Craig Counsell." Right. It wasn't. I don't even need to see his face. I don't need to see anything. I could see from the stands. And be like, "That's Craig Counsell." If I can't see the number on the back, it doesn't take much, and that's it. It makes you feel a little more connected. Where it's like, "Oh, I know these guys a little bit more."
But the whole thing was when that pitch is coming in. Craig Counsell brought his hands down more in line to where you need to be swinging the bat. Nobody's swinging the bat from up here. Can't hit anything from up there. But it's how he feels comfortable to play. And being a good hitter is about being comfortable to play. And that's what I taught. Be comfortable. You should be able to stand there for 10 minutes and just feel what makes you feel comfortable. It's about, for me, it was always about leg positioning, really, and where your hands were. That's what the whole thing's about.
Even Ken Griffey had, you look at the way he stood at the plate too. It wasn't, it's not how you would teach a guy to come up to the plate as well. And he's another fantastic batter.
Right. It's because those players didn't go through the cookie cutter school of this is the way everybody swings the bat. If you go to like an AAU game, you couldn't tell who was who up there at the plate because they all look exactly the same.
Unless you have a kid who plays there. But I mean, like, could you ever imagine a guy coming up to the plate in today's game? I mean, he didn't have a wide base. He kind of stood straight up and down for the most part, not much knee bend. And he'd have his arms and his elbow low like that. But I mean, like, that's how he would start out. And you'd never see something like that.
The key for Griffey, he never overstrode. Because if you overstride, your eye level drops, and that's how you miss pitches. I mean, he was just real level. Babe Ruth, his feet were very close together when he swung the bat. Barry Bonds. You don't see guys with their feet 40 foot apart. You just don't see it.
Unless
some guys do, like Bagwell did.
But it just adds, again, like you talk about the personalities, you talk about some of it that adds a little bit of the, I can connect to these people. That is a little bit of it. It's not like, okay, everybody does something a little different. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a shame. But like I said, I never told kids to stride, like, oh, take a stride, take a step at it. No. All you use, it's not even a stride. All you need to do is just get where you're moving a little bit. When I was hitting, I just lift my foot up, put it right back down in the same spot. Why? Because I don't want to change my eye seeing the ball. When I'm seeing it coming, if I'm striding, my eye level changes and I'm trying to catch up now. That's why you want to keep everything as level and balanced as possible. It makes you more productive. I was a pretty damn good hitter when I used to play. Matter of fact, really good. Really good.
Oh, good gracious.
Switch hitter, can hit either way.
There it is. Alexander
and how you know what? I taught myself to be a switch hitter. And how did I do it? By playing out in the backyard, being I'm, Dave Kingman or whoever, or Pete Rose, or whoever, Johnny Bench, and then whoever the left-handed batter was. I would go through the lineup of the team and I would bat, looking there how they used to swing the bat, and that's how I used to play. I'm like, okay, this guy bat fourth in the lineup. He was a righty. I'm swinging righty. This guy batted fifth. He was a lefty. I batted lefty. And I mean, I taught myself how to switch hit.
There it is. Alexander.
I did the same thing. And I did the same thing throwing the ball. I can throw the ball left-handed and right-handed.
Looky there, Grump. I know I feel like maybe some of you guys thought we hammered the hell out of that point, but you talk about the items that I think has diminished and slowly started to chip away at the game and the love for the game. Things like that add up.
I mean, and here's the thing. the fact that kids don't get to do the things that I did when I was a child, because, everything's so regimented now, you don't ever experiment. And that's how, when
You
you,
suck some of the fun out of the game for the kids too.
it was always fun. We always had fun. That was the whole thing. We always had fun. And I always said, you know what, you got to have fun, because if you're not having fun, it's not worth doing.
When you talk about sports, some sports where it's like, I need ultimate aggression, I need physicality, I need anger on the field. That's not how baseball is.
That's not baseball.
Baseball was, you got to have fun while you do it too. Football, hey, there is no fun. You want to pound the living hell out of the person in front of you. Basketball, you know what I mean? You want to be focused. You're still having fun out there on the court. But baseball is one of those, you got to have fun. You got to have fun when you're playing it. I mean, how rarely balls actually would come to you as a kid every once in a while, depending on where you played, and you only get the bat so often. You got to have fun while you're doing it. And it's when you make everything so, and it's like a military-esque regime, it takes and sucks some of the fun out of it for the kids.
It's the most individual
Team sport.
Individualistic team sport that there is. It's pitcher, batter, one-on-one. Yes, there are guys out in the field, but no guarantee they're going to get into any action every play. Where the pitcher and the batter, that's what it's all about.
Alexander says, good evening, guys. TJ Grump, hope you're having a great and blessed day. Absolutely, Alexander. Hope you guys are. Hope you are too. And the Islanders are done. Stick a fork in them for certain. That's what we like to hear. Frank Case and Matt Barzal and Zdeno Chara out. Green and Bailey are in.
That was easy.
Easy switch up for certain.
Why would we maybe consider giving Salo a shot? Why not?
Alexander says apparently they're close to making progress on the deal. The MLB, I'm not sure. And Frank K says MLB needs to settle it tomorrow, and this could be worse than 94.
That was devastating for Major League Baseball in 1994. Devastating.
You think? I mean, the lockout, what it did to hockey. I mean, hockey never had MLB, even though it's been slowly dwindling year after year, it still is stronger and was more of a household watched item than hockey was during the lockout time period. But you think about the damage the lockout did to the NHL and what it would do to an already dying MLB.
MLB is still more popular than the NHL. Just is.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
Because, around most of the country, you can play baseball. You got to have ice to play hockey. Street hockey is one thing, but for the most part, if you want to learn how to play hockey, you got to have ice. So it's never going to catch up in that regard. But 94 was devastating, and it wasn't until McGuire and Sosa that they bounced back a little bit. And now, of course, everything is what it is now. It's the analytics nerds have, in my opinion, ruining baseball. They're just ruining it.
It's definitely not helping the sport. We talk about the small things that hurt, right? When everything ends in a strikeout, home run, or you said strikeout, home run, or a walk, right, Grumpy?
Yeah, strike 33%. Like one out of every three at bats is either a strikeout, a walk, or a home run. Think about that. Ugh.
Yeah,
it's like playing station ball or advancing runners. It's like a lost art. It's a lost art.
Can't recall the last time I've seen people try to bunt and advance runners. It doesn't happen as often as it used to.
The analytics guys tell you that, swinging for the fences and hitting a home run is just as likely to happen as bunting a guy who's on first with no outs. You're still going to have to get a hit. So you might as well just keep swinging. I'm like, whatever. I don't know. I like to be able to play small ball, as they say.
Small ball. Tony Hopenny here saying, I haven't watched baseball since 2009. I watched the Yankees win the World Series, and I was like, eh.
First of all, there's too many N's in Hopenny. Thank you.
I know Hopenny.
And there's no hyphen in there either. If you're going to use that name,
I did like it. I did say Hopenny originally. That's how I think if you were phonetically going to spell Hopenny, that's how you would spell it.
It's Hope NY. Thank you.
I know, Grumpy. I know. When I was 14 to 15, baseball was my favorite. Then came hockey. I mean, you think about even when I was growing up too. You talk about like they had big names in baseball, very recognizable. Mike Piazza's, your Derek Jeter's, very recognizable players. And now it's like, okay, Fernando Tatis, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani. But I mean, how often do you see them on things around? You know what I mean? How often do you see them on billboards? How often do you see them in your everyday life? I would argue not all that often.
Everything has changed, and it's changed with the fact that, everyone's on their phone all the time. It's immediacy. I need this. I need constant stimulation. That's not baseball. That's not baseball. I remember watching the 1971 All-Star game. To this day, I remember watching the 1971 All-Star game, which got delayed. We were on a family trip down in Washington, D.C. in some dumpy-ass hotel somewhere. And I remember it was rained out the night before, and Reggie Jackson hit a home run off the light tower in Detroit Tiger Stadium. I was like, holy crap. And he was my favorite player because why? He played for the A's. They wore the white shoes. And in that game, you had how many Hall of Famers? I mean, for the National League, had Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Roberto Clemente, Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, and same thing with the American League. It was incredible, the talent. And you look back on it now, it's like, holy crap. Remember, Doc Ellis was the pitcher who threw that home run ball. Vida Blue also pitched in that game, who used to play for Oakland. I loved Oakland when I was a kid. I loved the uniforms. And they were my favorite team growing up, without a doubt. The Oakland A's.
BB saying good evening. What's up, BB? And he also says your position on steroid players being put in the Hall of Fame. Put them in the Hall of Fame.
I don't care. If you use steroids, I don't care. Who were the best players of that era? That's the way you have to look at it. Because I assume everybody was on it.
Yep.
Everybody. I've said on this podcast before, Ken Caminetti, who played for the San Diego Padres back in the late 80s and 90s, whatever it was, won NL MVP one year. He said that at least 80% of the players in the league were on steroids. And this is going back to the 1980s. I mean, the late 80s into the 90s. That's when you saw the shift in body types.
Ken Caminetti was still even a big guy, too.
Yeah. He was on it. He admitted he was on it.
I was about to say.
His career was over.
Yeah.
He's dead. I think I don't know if he committed suicide or what happened, but I know he's passed away. I mean, but he was a really good ball player, and everybody was on something. Yeah. He was on it. Absolutely. Like I said,
you just tell by the way he's built.
Let me just tell you something. You look at the bodies of these guys, think about what they're doing. They're playing 162 games a year. Do you think baseball players are muscling up in the gym 4 or 5 hours a day and then going out and playing at night?
No.
And then with the travel, your body can't take that unless you're doing something, please.
I was about to say, you don't have enough time and energy to be hitting the gym. Even let's say 2 hours. I mean, a hard workout 2 hours a day. I understand your profession. You can't work out a solid hard 2 hours a day and then go and play a game or doubleheader. It's just not how it works. I mean, your time to get bigger, your time to add strength and bulk is in the off season.
These guys are shredded. They're shredded.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I don't care. Like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, they were the best at their position, period. They should be in. I don't think everyone was, if I just go on the assumption, everyone was on steroids. That's my assumption. Everyone was on steroids or taking something, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them because if you see Johnny, you got to keep up with that. That's going to hurt your livelihood. So that's why I'm saying they were all doing it. You're not going to, I'm not going to do it because it's not right. And yeah, I know I have to make $10 million a year less than the next guy, but I'm doing it the right way. Horse shit. And guess what? Players are still doing it today. They're still doing it today. They just haven't been tested for that particular whatever they're doing. They're getting better at covering it up. Look at the size of the players. They're huge.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you could take a competitive advantage and a player can find a way to get away with getting a competitive competitive advantage, they're going to do anything they can to go ahead and get ahead. Just simple as that.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, no, it affects what they get paid. It affects their livelihood. It affects their spot on the team and their role for the organization. Doesn't shock me at all. Drill saying he made it on a pretty famous NY radio show today as a caller. Yeah, send it in to us. Maybe we'll listen to it afterwards. Alexander says, TJ sent you a video called The Art of the Stance. Ooh, we might have to watch that after.
I'll tell you why I love this podcast. Because I feel like the people who comment in are like our friends, honestly. And they help us with the show just by sending, certain things. I mean, thank you, Alexander. Alexander's great at that. Just great at that.
Yeah, thank you guys both. Absolutely. Shark Sports Card says the Tuffle Shuffle.
Tim Tuffle.
I assume he had a unique stance.
Yeah, he and Wally Backman used to split time at second base for the Mets back in 1986 championship year.
Trying to
Hello?
pull up the Tuffle
Okay.
shot. No, I'm trying.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know
Don't
what
worry
you were
about
doing.
it.
I didn't
I
know
was
what you were
I was
doing.
trying to
Sorry.
pull it up. I figured
Oh,
you'd go a little longer than that, but that's fine.
yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, I used to copy the same stance as Sheffield, Piazza, Robin Ventura, all of them,
It
all
was
the players."
great. Yeah. Todd Zeal. Yeah, it was great. I mean, and like I said, uh, as a kid growing up, I mean, gosh, I could even play by myself in the backyard and play these guys. We got a huge tree in the backyard. So when I'm hitting, I could hit a ball and it would, it would hit into that tree. It wouldn't go into the neighbor's yard. Sometimes I could put it over the tree, but the tree was huge. Had to be at 50 foot high, like the green monster. But you hit in the tree. Oh man, don't
That
get
tree
stuck.
had to
Wait till
be
it comes down.
179
No,
feet high.
it was
It
about
had to
50.
be 500 feet high.
It was about 50 foot high. And I want to say around, it had to be shit. It was huge. It was huge. And the whole thing was, you're hitting the balls up there. Uh-oh, is it going to come down? Is it going to come down? Oh, yeah. Okay, it came down. The worst thing was getting it stuck up in the tree. That was terrible. And having to take a rake and try to get up high enough to jam it down there. Oh, man, that was fun times when you're a kid.
BB saying, are you going to watch the USFL games?
I absolutely will. At least to start, I will.
I did see that.
They're all playing in Birmingham. They all have names from different cities, but they're all playing in Birmingham. All games are in Birmingham, Alabama. And I understand it because, they have to make money. I think the NFL is kind of tacitly behind them.
I thought they were behind the XFL as well. Or what is it, the USFL? I can't tell. There have been so many pop-up and there have been so many pop-up football leagues in the last few years, hard to keep track.
They were behind the XFL, but when COVID hit, that was the end of that. That league just went out when COVID hit, within 5 weeks, they were done. USFL was Trump even owned a team. He owned the New Jersey Generals. Doug Flutie and Herschel Walker played on that team. There were a lot of good players who played in the USFL. It was the one legitimate spot where players could play and make pretty good money and not be the NFL. Sam Mills played there. Reggie White played there for a while. I think they were the Memphis Showboats or something like that. But, they're bringing back the Tampa Bay Bandits, 8 of those teams that were in there previously. And the NFL, I think, is also going to – I think they're like that. I think they're behind them.
I know the XFL is not under yet, by the way, Grump. The XFL still does exist. But they were talking about how the USFL is going to take players that did have XFL contracts. I don't know, Grump.
I mean,
you look at the coaches. You look at the coaches and the names of a few of these coaches for the USFL. Jeff Fisher, obviously, I think is the most notable name.
Todd Haley, offensive coordinator for really good teams, Pittsburgh and Kansas City.
Bart Andrus. You got Larry Fedora, who'd been successful.
Skip Holtz, who'd been Mike Riley, both of them former college coaches. Mike Riley was with Oregon State, I believe. Skip Holtz was at ECU and
Kevin Sumlin.
I don't remember them.
I was about to say, I mean, like when I'm thinking of the big names, right? Jeff Fisher, obviously the biggest name on this. Todd Haley's a big name. Larry Fedora had success in college.
North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina for a few years. So, it's.
But I think they're going to use the USFL instead of just implementing rule changes. They're going to try it out there first. Use it like as a petri dish, so to speak.
B-Bean says, should Russia be excluded from all international sports? Now, this is funny you mention this because I think kind of it launches us into a little bit of a different territory now. To answer, I know that I think Dominic Hasek had probably taken the most harsh stance on Russian athletes, saying that Russian athletes not only should they not be allowed to compete in international events, but Russian hockey players should not be allowed to compete in the NHL until all this gets sorted either. He said, I don't want to have any malice against the players, but as of right now, we need to take hard stances. The only way to do that is by drastic action.
That's a little strong. That to me, that's a little strong. Now the international events, absolutely. But players who are playing in the NHL, I'm sorry. I don't think they should be singled out just because you're Russian heritage. I just think that's wrong. But I mean, you're having the World Cup is going to be this year coming up. I believe it's playing in December in Qatar, but they're still having qualifying matches. Poland has already said they will not play against Russia.
Yeah.
And the Czech Republic, they're all in the same bracket, also said they will not play against the Russians. So now you're in a quandary. Do you just let the Russians...
Did you see what FIFA came out today? Just really quickly interrupt. They said that in order to allow the qualifiers still to take place, the Russian athletes are not allowed to wear their crest, or not allowed to have their flag present. No fans. They're not allowed to play their national anthem. Has to all be held at neutral site items as well. So they're not just allowing them to say, hey, they're not going to compete. They're trying to meet somewhere in the middle. FIFA is.
So is Poland going to play them? And
I
is
have
Czech
no
Republic
idea.
going to play them?
That just came out a few hours ago, so I have no idea after that happened. I mean, there's supposed to be peace talks or preliminary peace talks in Belarus tomorrow, so it's a very fluid situation. And again, without getting political in it, but I mean, you're seeing there's a lot of sports that have been affected at international level regarding players there that play for the Russian team, national team, and that they're not going to be able to compete on an international level.
I'm just saying that FIFA cannot let Russia have a walkover to make the World Cup. That cannot happen. I don't care what you have to do, but you cannot because other teams won't play them, you cannot let them walk over and just go into the World Cup. Cannot let that happen. Absolutely can't. If you need to kick them out of the tournament, you kick them out of the tournament for the good of everybody else. You cannot let other teams say, well, we're not going to play them, and they walk over. It just cannot let that happen.
You can't. And Grump, just to clarify, you're saying that you can't, just because a Poland or a Czechoslovakia doesn't want to go ahead and play Russia, you give Russia the 3 automatic points and allow them to get themselves into a qualified position. That's what you're saying.
It's a little bit different because it's a play-in, and they have 4 teams in each pod, and the winner of those pods winds up qualifying for the World Cup.
Yes.
So if Poland was the first opponent for Russia, that means that Russia would get a walkover to the final of that pod. And then Czechoslovakia is playing against Sweden, I believe. And if Czech Republic beats them, then Russia would get a walkover into the World Cup qualifying without ever having to play a match. I don't believe that should happen.
Yeah, I mean, to think about it, right? You're talking about the original play-in games, right? It was Portugal's in the same as Italy, right? I was about to say that was supposed to be the big item everybody's looking out at, and now that this has happened, everybody's like, "Are we going to see Poland play Russia? Is Russia going to be kicked? What's happening with that?" It's funny how that has changed a little bit as where the attention is at the moment.
Yeah.
And again, rightfully so. I mean, this has been, it's captivated all news and it should, and it's captivated all news for the last, at least week plus. And again, I assume it will continue to do so. But I think Dominic Hasek, but remember, I will say this, at least in Dominic Hasek's defense, I'm not a fan of saying, hey, Russian-born players are not able to play in the NHL. But, this is a guy who was originally from the Czech Republic, right?
Yeah.
Or Czechoslovakia. Was it?
Yes.
It was okay. Czechoslovakia.
I don't know when.
He was originally from Czechoslovakia. He was originally born in Czechoslovakia back when those were two together until they got split between Czech Republic and Slovakia. But he was obviously in a nation that at the time period did have those tensions and escalations with, the Soviet Union when he was born. I can't remember when he was born. I think the Soviet Union was still around though.
Yeah, probably. But that was, communism and non-communism. That's why those countries wound up getting split up. People forget. See, you don't even remember what it used to be like. It was like the Soviet bloc, they called it, which were all of the communist countries. And Czechoslovakia was one of them. Hungary was one, and they had brutal wars with them, and they treated their people like crap because that's the way. It's a totalitarian system. Communism. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. It's a totalitarian system. Ask anyone who's lived under those type of regimes, and they'll all say the same thing. It's all about subjugating the people. That's what the whole thing's about. And Russia had problems with that. Thank God for Ronald Reagan. Thank God for Ronald Reagan.
He was born in 65, so he definitely got to experience a lot of that. So that's, I'm sure, has made him more jaded towards this entire issue and the entire item that's been kind of flaring back up.
Yeah, jaded's not the word I'd use. He's like, yeah, I remember what they were like. They were brutal, just a brutal totalitarian regime. That's what they were.
Yeah. Drew L says, I wonder if the decline of baseball's popularity has something to do with people in younger generations having shorter attention spans also.
Yes, that's the combination, right? Everyone, how many people do anything without being on their phone at the same time?
Good point.
Right? I mean, who sits there and just watches a baseball game all day? Now, baseball is also, Major League Baseball is also responsible for the way that their product is right now, where, you're playing every game seems like it's 3.5 hours long, 3 hours, 45 minutes. It shouldn't take that long to play a game. And they can't seem to find a way to speed it up. You have to make it entertaining. Ever since every game, well, not every game, but the vast majority of games are being played at night, children don't get a chance to watch it. The World Series, every game is at night. And when do they start? It's not like they start at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock. They're starting at 8:30. Well, you know what? Who's going to stay up and watch a game that ends at 1 o'clock in the morning? No kids are.
And if they're out west, they're starting at 9 or 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. You're just shutting you're shutting off the ability for young kids to watch at that point.
Where those games, you used to be able to watch, day games were all the time. I mean, back when Wrigley Field, until they got lights, they never played a game at night in Chicago, ever. Every game was a day game.
Alexander's saying, what about some of the weird pitching windups too? Pete Harnish, Chad Bradford. I mean, a whole bunch of different unique pitching. I mean, you see some of that, but not as much. I mean, you'll still see like your oddball, like your Tin Lincecum and items like that as of recent, but they're pretty much all homogenized in that aspect too.
And here's the thing, guys used to be able to pitch 300 innings a year. Now it's like, oh, the analytics guys say, no way we're going to have you go 3 times through the lineup. Got to change out, get a relief pitcher in there. We don't want these guys hitting you.
I think that takes away a little bit of, it takes away a little bit of the pizzazz and a little bit of the pull that starting pitchers used to have too. I mean, you think to yourself, right? You used to have your Randy Johnsons, your Roy Holidays. You used to have a plethora of very, very talented starting pitchers that everybody could point out and say, oh, I know Randy Johnson. Oh, I know Curt Schilling. Oh, I know Roger Clemens. It's not the case anymore.
Right, because it's the importance of starting pitching has diminished.
Because you only send him out there for 5 or 6 innings and you say, we need to pull you out from load management.
Right. It's like, oh, he's getting close to 100 pitches. Got to take him. Guys just throw 150 pitches every game regularly. You want to know how come they were able to do that? Because they were throwing all the time. The more you throw, the stronger your arm gets. When you're babying it all the time, cut them off here, cut them off here. Guys are going to exert themselves. And if you're not physically ready for that, by having a strong enough arm, it leads to injury. It's the exact opposite of what they tell you.
Drill says, by the way, Bailey's back in the lineup. Bellows got moved to the bottom of 6 again. Oh,
well,
gosh.
He can't help himself.
They're playing Wallstrom on the same line. They must be playing on the third line. Alexander says the NHL is still recovering from the lockout.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what, for me, you want to know when hockey was fantastic to watch as a product? Right after COVID, when we had the hiatus and then they played all the games, all the playoff games in the bubbles, and they were back to back to back to back. Man, that was a great, you sit there and watch hockey all day long. Every team all day long, every single day was fantastic.
And I wouldn't be opposed to that going forward either. I know like everybody's like, oh, they want to get off of work. There's something a little different there. It's like I can watch hockey all day long. I mean, I wouldn't, going forward, the first round of the playoffs, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Every single day, you've got different games on. You've got, let's say, at least bare minimum 3 games a day, and you've got it all different hours. I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. Tony Hopenny says here, I have to spell it phonetically correct, or else he'll say Tony Hope NY. That's correct, Grumpy.
Well, let's see, if you take out that space, that leads into Hopenny once again.
Oh,
and have it all the same, all lowercase or all uppercase.
John P. here says, hello, gentlemen. In regards to the MLB lockout, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.
100%.
He says, typo, to the sir with love.
That
George.
was a Sidney Poitier movie, To Sir with Love.
Alexander says here, they're having what?
They're having a Sidney Poitier marathon on. It's got to be on Turner Classic Movies because I love to watch that channel, and it's not surprising. Yeah, To Sir with Love.
And Kem and Eddie, great player. He passed away from an overdose and cardiac arrest.
I knew it was something, not. Oh, he died in a car accident. I knew it was something self-inflicted.
Alexander says, I used to act like my house was Shea Stadium. That's how much of a fan I was. Oh, yeah.
It was great. It was great. I mean, as a kid, fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And then Drew L says here, no Dobson goal. Islanders up 1-0.
9 goals for him now.
He's slowly inching his way back up. And baseball movies are best baseball movies, guys. Ooh, Field of Dreams has to be up there, right?
Field of Dreams. That's it's a baseball movie per se, but it was other things too. It was a fantastic movie. The Natural. I love The Natural with Robert Redford. Thought it was great. Major League was hilarious. Not a great movie per se, but it was always fun to watch. I love Pride of the Yankees with the Lou Gehrig story. I thought that was, oh man, that was so good. So good. Pride of the Yankees. I thought Gary Cooper was Lou Gehrig.
Really?
Yes. I'm like, oh man, there's Lou Gehrig. Anytime I saw Gary Cooper, I used to, they show it on WPIX channel 11 up in New York, and whenever it was, and I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old. Remember, that's a movie from like 1941. So, it was on television by then. It's like, oh man, look at Lou Gehrig. I thought he was Lou Gehrig because as a kid, you think that's who it is. Babe Ruth was actually in that movie. Bill Dickey, who was a catcher for the Yankees at that time, was actually in the movie.
I used to do that with Home Alone. I used to call Kevin McAllister. I said, look, here's Home Alone. I used to mess up the name, and I just thought his name was the one of the actual name of the movie. Called him Home Alone. So you're not alone, grumpy old man.
Bull Durham was really good too. Bull Durham was excellent as well.
There it is.
With Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner he's a really big baseball fan.
Have a little rumor. I've heard a little rumor. We've heard a little rumor about Kevin Costner.
Absolutely a jerk. Absolutely a jerk. But he's an athlete. And he looks like an athlete. And he's like the thing with Gary Cooper. He was so bad that they had to reverse the negative on the film because he couldn't swing left-handed at all. He could barely swing right-handed. And so they had to do something where it like a mirror image. So to show him as being a left-handed hitter. But Kevin Costner, not only can he walk the walk, he can talk the talk for certain. But he's absolutely a jerk. Absolutely.
Maybe one day we'll tell that story. Grumpy, I feel like it couldn't get anybody in trouble if we told the story either. So
no, I don't think so.
Well, I don't know.
I don't think our show is big enough right now to get us in trouble or anybody else saying, "Hey, you stalking out of school there, brother."
Maybe we'll do it when we've got one of these days that's
a summertime thing.
I was about to say when we've got less to talk about, we could go ahead and pull that up because it's a juicy one with Kevin Costner, and it's got let's say implications in the MLB in the past, historic implications. So something that affected millions of people as well. We're just going to leave it at that. And millions of people to keep one historic run in check. That's all I'm going to say. Jeremy F says Dobson strikes again. Aho looks so smooth out there. We should be rolling out Pellick and Pulak, Salo, Dobson, and Aho and Mayfield. Hutton, if Mayfield is moved for the rest of the season. No need for Zdeno Chara or Andy Green.
100% agree. 100%.
John P says Putin and his accomplices are the problem, not Russia's individual citizens. Yeah, the citizens don't seem to be the issue. It's always anytime the people, most times the average everyday Joes don't want any conflict because
they're not involved in any of those decisions.
It's like if we did something where we got involved somewhere else, it's not us. We have no control over any of that stuff, and we don't want to be bothered with it, but it's all the people up top.
Do you think Mikhail in Minsk is saying, hey, let's go over there and kick Ukraine's ass? No. It's always the people at the top. And John is 100. See, John knows. John's a little older than you, TJ. He's
well,
like,
why don't you read the rest of the comment, Grump?
Okay.
From the Cold. Go ahead.
From the Cold War veterans' perspective, United States Air Force, 81 to 87, the USSR was absolutely a brutal regime. Hungary in 56, Czechoslovakia 68, Afghanistan 79 to 89, etc. It just went on and on and on. That's the way it was, because that's what communism is, period. Whenever people say, oh, you ever hear, I don't like to get political, but I'm just going to say anyone who tells you, oh, well, you know what? Everyone gets everything in the communist system. It's the same for everybody. That's not the way it works. I hate to tell you, you think our system is bad? Go look at how it is in communist countries. Because guess what? The higher ups, the 1%, they get everything and the people get nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's just the way it is. Communism is just bad.
Tony Hopenny says Alexander had a giant shitty apple in his house. I used to love when in Shea Stadium, when a home run was hit, the apple would come up, go light up like home run. I used to love that. Who didn't love the apple?
I wasn't a big fan of the apple.
The big apple, Grump. It was the big apple, Grump.
It just, I don't know. I was never a big fan of the apple. It was cheesy. To me, the Yankees do it the right way. The Yankees are class, and the Mets are the Mets. And I like the Mets, but they always thought of themselves as second-class citizens. You even listen, they consider themselves a small market team. I'm like, what? What are you insane? You're 8 miles from Yankee Stadium or 11 miles from Yankee Stadium. It might as well be the moon the way you guys talk.
I used to love anytime that home run was hit when the apple would come up. Oh, man, the big apple. I know you said it was cheesy looking, Grump. I liked it. It was cheesy. Durham, and for the love of for the love of the game, as well as 42 is a great movie. That's right. 42 is it's a good baseball movie that's recently made as well.
I don't think I've ever seen the whole movie 42.
Really?
I don't think I've ever seen it. I think Harrison Ford was in. I think he played Branch Rickey, but I don't think I ever watched the whole thing. I don't even remember the reason why, but I never watched the whole thing. But for the love of the game, and I don't think it's on cable a whole lot. Also, like For the Love of the Game is on, periodically, and I've seen that. That's where Kevin Costner played a pitcher for the Detroit Tigers named Billy Chappell, and he's getting ready to retire because his career's over. And he has a love affair with Kelly Preston, who, the love of his life. And he's on the verge of throwing a perfect game against the New York Yankees. And it was pretty good. It was okay. It wasn't great. It was too long for a baseball movie, but it was okay.
I like
Bull Durham was good, though.
And he's saying, not cool, Tony. Not cool, sir, is what Alexander was saying about making fun of the shitty apple. Nick D says here, that's right, Grump, communism is bad. Thumbs up. And to speak about here what's happened since we've seen
that's why it was so incredible when the United States Olympic team beat the Russians in the Olympics. Like I said, TJ, you don't understand. I don't even expect you to understand.
Here we go. You say that every time, and you go another 5 minutes about how I don't understand. Thank you so much.
No, but the whole thing is, it was us against them, good against evil, and to see the college kids beat the Russian juggernaut, it was spectacular.
Now, this more kind of bringing it back to sports news. Roman Abramovich. He is the owner. He's a Russian oligarch. He signed over control temporarily of the team to the charitable trust fund that they have set up there at Chelsea. So he's no longer of the head of the actual football club. And I assume that's because he's worried about assets being frozen and the effects that it will have and possibly what they could do to Chelsea if things continue to escalate. And he's in charge of that. So that's recent news, and it's big. I don't know, Grump. That's an odd one too. I mean, you talk about the severity of and how it kind of ripples over into sports. Chelsea Football Club, one of the largest football clubs in the world, like that as well.
Well, also one of the sanctions was they were freezing the assets of Russian oligarchs. of which he is one. Now,
Yes.
I know he is trying to become an
He already is.
English citizen. Oh, I think he's trying. I don't know if he is yet
He's
or
a
not.
citizen, I thought, of Israel. I thought he's got dual citizenship in Israel as well. I don't know. I got to pull that up, though. I'll look it up.
I think he was trying to become an English citizen as well. So, I mean, at least this guy was proactive. I don't know if he did it because his assets are frozen. I have no idea. But at least he's proactive. I will say that. And it makes him look
Israeli.
good.
He already has Israeli citizenship as well. Okay. So he did that back in 2018, May of 2018. He did that. So
I don't know how that affects Chelsea's on the field product.
I don't know. I mean, you talk about, I don't know if that's going to affect what their off season looks like or what, transfer window looks like. I have no idea. I've never seen anything like this before where, an owner of a team has signed over control and stewardship to a trust in the board of trustees. I mean, do we think that Abramovich is still going to be pulling the strings, or now it's going to be left up to a delegation of a handful of individuals who will now determine what type of offseason moves they make and what type of budget they'll have?
I can say if that's what it is, where a bunch of group of individuals do it, that'll fail.
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Or is it going to be where Abramovich pulls the strings and they just have somebody in who just goes ahead and votes and they do whatever he says, but they use this trust as a proxy for him to still have control? I have no earthly idea. That's why I said this could be detrimental to the team. I mean, they've been extremely successful as of recent, but anytime you're now going to move what should be done by, an owner, one individual owner, now you said we're going to split that up amongst a handful of individuals, 5 to 10 individuals who are now going to vote as to how much we'll spend, and it's not even the money that not even their money they're spending. I don't know. It's odd. That's why I still think Abramovich still will pull the strings from afar.
He's still the owner.
Yes.
So,
well, he's signed over stewardship, though other people are handling everything else.
Yeah. But like I said, but here's the thing: this Ukraine and Russia thing could be over in a month. Putin puts in a puppet government, and then hey, okay, I'll back out, and then everyone's supposedly happy, but he gets what he wants. So who knows?
I don't know. They're meeting tomorrow. We'll see. I don't know. It's one of those things where it feels like we talk about the news cycle in the real world news cycle. It seems like it has been a never ending news cycle where I don't feel like it used to be like that. I mean, it started off with COVID, and rightfully so at the beginning, and COVID had controlled everything in the media for 2 years, and now we're on to the next item. Now we're on to tension and fighting, and just like, man, I'm just ready to take a little bit of a break. I'm ready to kick my feet back and take a little bit of a break. I think as most people are. But that's just my 2 cents here. B Bean says here, once a Russian oligarch, always a Russian oligarch. You can't just quit when it's convenient for you. Well, I think he signed over the team so that he would make sure he didn't have to worry about items, being seized or it affecting the team's success going forward, which is why I think he did this. And Drew said, yep, communism is bad. And then John P says, communism is a failed system because it can never get past the dictatorship
of the proletariat stage of the stages of communism. And Lenin, Stalin, but why? But here's the reason, right, John? Because total power corrupts totally. And that's what happens. That's the reason it doesn't work.
It's easy to say on your way up that we want to give and redistribute, make sure everything's equal. But as soon as you get there, like, well, shit, I'm sitting kind of fancy. I'm not sure I want to do that. Yeah. It's human greed. It's just simple as that. It always is going to exist. It never goes away.
Like Khrushchev, when he was the premier of the Soviet Union, went to the United Nations and took a shoe and was banging on the desk. We will destroy you, to the United States. I don't remember the exact words, but he made it in no uncertain terms. They were there to crush us and defeat us.
Now, Grumpy, we're going to read our ad. Hoop fans, the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is too good to pass up. I'm talking between the legs, 360 windmill good. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still take your shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN and bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 years or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Void where prohibited. Minimum of a $5 deposit required. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call or text TN Redline, which is 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY, which is 467-369. Not to be confused with Hopenny, Grumpy.
With the aforementioned Hopenny.
That's the issue. Hopenny. Yes, absolutely. Alexander said it's sad. It's so sad to see these days now. Korea is just to get involved and help Russia. Is ready to get involved and help Russia.
They're a communist totalitarian regime. Believe me, China's got their back too. They stick together.
Yeah,
they do.
Absolutely. Want to go ahead and talk, switching gears here a bit, Grump. There's been, I want to show you this. I'm not sure if you saw the Caballero Cup unfolded, the final here today.
Okay, don't say anything because I didn't watch it, and it was on ESPN Plus. I was going to watch it tonight, so I don't want to know what happened. I know it was 0-0, went into extra time. I know that. That's as much as I know.
Can I tell you something that happened early on in the game?
Okay. As long as you
maybe that did happen in extra time. So never mind. I won't show that to you, Grump.
Ugh.
You know what, Grumpy? I will save it, and we'll go ahead and starve the fans, the hungry listeners, the people who want to talk.
You want to know about the Caribou Cup? That's right up there with
the Caribou Cup.
That's right up there with hobby horsing.
Oh man. Okay, let's switch gears then. Did you hear that Ali Marpet, at the age of 28 years old, is retiring from the NFL?
Yes. I was really, really surprised at that.
That's odd. You're seeing more and more younger individuals retiring earlier from the NFL. And I wonder if that's because of the more knowledge you see of brain issues that later on that causes. You see a lot of people that are retiring at younger ages. And maybe it's because, hey, I've made money. I don't need to continue to put my body through this. I'm just kind of curious on what your thoughts are. 28 years old in the prime of his career retiring. It's not the first time players have done this.
He made 38 or 36 or $38 million over the course of his career. And the interesting thing was his father tweeted after that saying, he's very concerned about, his health going forward. And he did have a serious concussion 2 years ago. So maybe that had something to do with it. And, but he wants to do a lot of work in the Tampa Bay community, and good for him if he can afford to do it. I hope it works out for him. I know he went to Hobart College. I hope he majored in something because I know he just doesn't want to sit around the house for the next 60, 70 years or whatever, 60 years, whatever it is. He's going to have to do something.
I thought you were having trouble breathing there, Grump. You're seeing players at a younger age retire. And again, you talk about the injuries. I think, the names that come to mind, right? More notably, you think of your Calvin Johnsons, you think of your Andrew Lucks, you think of a lot of these players who retire at young ages as they're entering or in the prime of their career. And Ali Marpet's another one of these players.
Patrick Willis retired at a young age. Linebacker, used to play for the 49ers.
He retired at a young age?
Yeah. There's quite a few, but most hang around for as long as they can. That's what, if you can play a kid's game and get paid a lot of money for it.
Luke Kuechly's another one. Yeah, Patrick Willis, he retired at 29, but Luke Kuechly, I know he had the concussion issues, and he retired, I think, at like 28 or 27 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just seeing a lot of players retiring at very young ages in the NFL specifically.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting how that Tampa Bay team, which was really so good, and if the defensive coordinator didn't shit the bed, probably would have won the Super Bowl again this year. And you look at the offense has been dismantled in a matter of 4 weeks. Brady gone, Marpet gone. a number of free agents. Gronk probably leaving as well. It'll be different in Tampa Bay next year. That's for certain.
Drew L says, TJ, to further elaborate, it seems like everyone also on social media, when they post, are sad and items of that nature. It's like, I'm sorry that you feel the way, but you're so redundant. If you're not doing something that makes you happy, do something that makes you happy. If you're unhappy, well, it's harder than that. I think that with social media too, it's, even though we've had more availability to be in touch with people, there is no more of the human interaction on a face-to-face level. And it's like with COVID, right, that we've had for now 2 some odd years, recently you've seen people able to kind of be back in a more personalized setting, but that was taken away and you couldn't do that. And everybody was sitting at home isolated. And when you're isolated, like, humans are, I think, they're individuals that, they like
social beings.
They're social beings. That's what it is, Grump. Good way to put it. They're social individuals. They're social animals. And when you can't be social, or if we're doing social from a call, it doesn't have the same feel of seeing somebody in person and just having that endorphin, like where it's like, hey, I see John Smith. Oh, fantastic. We grabbed a movie the other day, or went out to get dinner. I think that hurt. Meatball Parm says, good evening. Let's see how these shitbags lose this one, talking about the Islanders. Oh, goodness.
Maybe he's talking about the Ducks.
I doubt it. I doubt it. After that, Meatball Parm is looking mighty tasty.
It is looking good. It is looking good. I went to see a movie today, TJ. During the day, I saw The Godfather, the new 4K restoration. Spectacular, by the way. Absolutely spectacular. The transfer is phenomenal, without a doubt. I saw it in a Dolby Studio theater. So the sound quality was tremendous as well. I've already pre-ordered the 4K Blu-ray, which comes out sometime in March. But yeah, it was fantastic. I don't even know what the question was that I brought that up. What did you say before? Because I did have a point, but I got lost in the movie, being the greatest movie of all time.
I don't know, Grumpy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Grumpy, you started talking about that. I'm like, oh, The Godfather. Here we go.
No, but you mentioned something that made me say that, that's what I did today.
I didn't. I think you just interrupted. I said the shitbags are talking about the Islanders. You said maybe he's talking about the Anaheim Ducks.
No, there was something else. Then you said something which triggered me to that.
You took off on it, Grump. And then John P. says, human frailty makes it, talking about communism, a failed system.
We will bury you. Yep. We will bury you. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely here.
That's why I love John by being on these shows, because he remembers all that stuff. I remember most of it, but I didn't. That's exactly right. We will bury you.
And talking here, we've got now this talking about the Giants, switching gears here again, talking more NFL. Daniel Jones. The Giants are not expected to pick up Daniel Jones' 5th-year option by the May deadline. So that means he's still under contract this year. It just means if they wanted to resign him the year after, they'd either have to offer him a new contract and have to draw it up from scratch instead of giving him the 5th-year option, the team option, or they have to franchise tag him. This essentially means that I don't think they're sold on Daniel Jones. This is kind of like a try it out year to see if it works. If it doesn't, then he's gone, is the way I look at this.
Absolutely.
I'm not picking up the team option.
That's exactly what it means, because if you pick up the team option, it's way less money than letting him test the market, way less. So they don't feel comfortable with where he's at. They don't want to commit to him. But one thing, and I believe I sent you an article maybe towards the tail end of the week, where Brian Daboll is not taking all of the Buffalo offense with him, but he wants to work with Daniel Jones to tailor make the offense that's something that's more conducive to his skill set. Because let's be honest, he's not Josh Allen, right? So I thought that was a good thing from a Giant perspective. And then you look at this, it's like, okay, they don't believe in him though. So to me, if you don't believe in him,
still maybe even draft the quarterback in this year's draft. It would not shock me at all.
Or maybe they really shoot the moon and try to trade for one of the guys who's available. I mean, you heard that Russell Wilson, even though, Kyler Murray has supposedly, back in the good graces with the Cardinals, back and forth, Russell Wilson has scrubbed his account from Seattle stuff, where now he's got his family and not Seattle, him playing in a Seattle uniform anymore, which is interesting.
I'll tell you this year too. Now, there was a lot of quarterbacks that have been rumored to be on the move. They say Carson Wentz is going to possibly be on the move. They've talked about Grumpy Old Man. They've talked about Kirk Cousins might not be there permanently in Minnesota. So I don't know. There's a lot of movement.
Okay, Indianapolis says they are moving on from Carson Wentz. They want a new quarterback. But Kirk Cousins is a little bit different. He helped pick the coach.
But they still said he's been linked. He's been linked moving elsewhere. I'm just saying that Kirk Cousins he's confirmed that, yeah, Indianapolis wants to move on from him. Here's the thing. I don't think that Carson Wentz was necessarily the issue in Indianapolis. I mean, he's not the Carson Wentz of past. I mean, he's never going to be the Carson Wentz that was having that MVP caliber season before he tore his ACL. He's just too injury prone, and he's just not that guy.
Yeah, but the fact that Frank Reich is letting him go, and that's where he had all the success with when he was with Philadelphia, doesn't want him after 1 year, and he was terrible last year. That kind of is a red flag for me with Carson Wentz. I mean, I know he was in. Okay, so last year he threw for 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 picks. He played better than he had in the past. He wasn't okay. He's an okay quarterback, right? We go over like, is this guy, is he the guy or is he a game manager? I mean, an ideal scenario, Carson Wentz he's a guy who he's a little more than a career journeyman. I think he's a guy who's a middle of the road quarterback. He's not a guy who's going to win you anything special based off his ability alone. You're right. He did have that 1 year before he tore his ACL. I think it was in 2017 where he was killing it. That was his second year in the league. And then he missed that time. They were like 11 and something. And then he got injured. And that was, he's had the back injuries, the ankle injuries, the knee injury. He's just been susceptible to injuries. As simple as that. He played better last year than he did in Philly the year before. But now you got a guy who's 29, 30 years old. I mean, he's in the prime of his career, and he's a guy who's going to be probably bouncing around from team to team the remainder of his NFL career. I don't think he's that old, but the whole thing is I watched him play last year. He's not good. In big moments, he'll throw an interception. Maybe they won't get picked off, but he'll make bad throws.
29.
I'm like, oh man, he's not the answer there. And they have a running game. They got Jonathan Taylor.
He's 29. Yeah, they do. They do have Jonathan Taylor, which should definitely. I mean, like when we look at the production, right? That's why I said he's got 27 touchdowns, 3,500 passing yards, 7 picks. Right? He's only throwing for like 200 something yards a game. I mean, like 209 passing yards on average a game. He started every single game, all 17 games this year. Only passed for 3,500 yards. He's a game manager. It just looks that way. But he's 29 years old. He's a game manager. I mean, if you need to spot yourself, I mean, you think about it, right? If Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for a QB, and that's why I popped this up. Carson Wentz is not a fantastic option, but is he better than maybe what you had last year in Ben Roethlisberger? Perhaps. But he's not. I mean, he's not the answer. Nowhere he goes is he going to be the answer.
That's what I agree. The thing that would worry me if I'm a Steeler fan is Frank Reich, who did great things with him when he was in Philadelphia before that knee injury, was probably going to be league MVP that year they won the Super Bowl, by the way. If Frank Reich doesn't want him after a year, that's a concern for me because they have history and he knows how good he can be. And then after, maybe saying, he's not what he was. We want to go in a different direction. Just saying.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then we've got, I wanted to show you a few more items too, before we get back to the comments, Grump. Now, did you happen to see that for the first time in college basketball history, all the top 6 teams in the NCAA college basketball lost on the same day?
Incredible. What a game. I mean, here's the thing. If you don't have a dog in the fight, my God, how exciting is that to watch that and watch who doesn't root for underdogs? Who doesn't root for underdogs? Like, unless one of those is your team, it's like I'm always rooting for the underdog.
Gonzaga loses to St. Mary's. Arizona loses. Auburn loses. Purdue loses. Kansas loses. Kentucky loses.
St. Mary's Sisters of the Poor. beat Gonzaga.
It's not St. Mary's Sisters of the
I
Poor.
know, but I just figured I'd add it in.
But I mean, you look at that, right? And again, speaking about the historic day, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all lost for the first time ever on the same day, and you had 7 top 10 teams lose on the same day. First time ever happened in college basketball history. And it's just like, wow. You talk about the moving and shaking. I mean, we talk about how the thing that makes March Madness so much fun is that you can have these Cinderella stories and anybody can beat any team out there in the field, and also the fans, right? That's what makes it fantastic. And you develop the relationship with this team you've never heard of, Florida Gulf Coast, or you talk about it, Wichita State. I'm just trying to pull a few ones, the small schools that have really done well. Who was that school from Chicago a few years ago?
Loyola Marymount.
I couldn't remember who it was, but they came out of nowhere. These teams that come out of nowhere and they go ahead and shock, and they beat number 2 Virginia. They beat all these top tier teams, and you love to see the small team, punching a weight class above and winning. And you saw that this weekend, and that's just you love seeing that as just a general sports fan.
Yeah, like that small school in Durham, North Carolina, Duke University. I mean, nice to see them do well. They won.
Oh, they're a small school, huh?
They don't have a whole lot of students.
Oh,
1,400 students, I think.
No, they've got more than 14. No, it's got to be at least 14,000, Grump.
I don't think so. They're a small school, Duke University. Not very big. They're not a state school.
15,129 students enrolled.
Okay, you sure?
In 2017, had 15,129 or 92. I'm sorry, students enrolled. Yeah, Grump, dude, come on. Dude,
Okay,
come
my
on.
bad.
Come on, Grumpy.
That's probably a lot of guys going to night school.
Hold on. Hold on. Let me see this here for a second. Notre Dame's total enrollment's only 8,624 students. That can't be right, is it?
They're private schools.
Only 8,000 students at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I've never been to South Bend. Only 8,000. Wake Forest is small too. My God.
They're private schools. They're not state schools.
They're very prestigious academic schools, so I didn't know if that's where they had.
That's why I didn't realize Duke had that many. Seriously, I knew they didn't have 1,400, but I didn't think they had 15,000 either. I thought they were around 8,000. That's where I thought they were.
I can't get over Notre Dame only having 8,000 kids. 8,000 kids enrolled in school.
I'm not surprised.
Okay, Yale's a private institution. Yale has more students enrolled than Notre Dame does. I don't know. It's odd to think of. Grumpy, what can I say? I'm not going to college anytime soon, but I'm just thinking about enrollment numbers. It's odd.
Not unless you get your reading scores up.
I don't think I can. They'd show somebody a clip of me reading Hopenny, and I'm in trouble.
Yes.
Oh my goodness gracious, Grump. But yeah, there was a lot. I tell you now, it's going to be interesting to see how things continue to develop. As we get kind of more to the meat and potatoes part of Champions League, we'll be talking about that. Cristiano Ronaldo's been struggling a bit. Man United, buddy, that manager.
Okay. The team blows. That's why I told you that it was a disaster him going there. And he's done some good things, but they're just a bad team with bad coaches.
Ragnick is awful. I mean, he's bad. There's no way about it. It's not the system he wants them to play. It's just not conducive to that team's success. And you look at Ponch, he's not been successful at PSG either.
Why? Pochettino, I think it's going to be tough for anybody to manage Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. I mean, at least Di Maria is a good citizen. He's extremely talented still at his age. But I mean, you have to manage. That's what made Zinedine Zidane so special as a coach. It wasn't the X's and O's. It was how he handled the egos of the players on the team. That's what happens when you have super clubs or, teams that are really big clubs. Can you imagine managing the egos of Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe? I mean, I just don't think Pochettino's cut out for that. Isn't it interesting that PSG is looking to hire Zidane at the end of the season? He's a good fit there because he has the respect of every player in the room, being a former Ballon d'Or winner and World Cup champion for France. I mean, he just commands that respect. Not everyone could do that. And that's why the guy for Ragnick for Man United, Yeah, maybe the little tactics that he likes to run work at the lower levels of the German league, but at a big team like Manchester United, he's not going to get that buy-in, and he doesn't have the type of players to make that work.
Well, here's the thing. He didn't play at the lower level. He was coach. He was a manager at RP Leipzig for years. It's the Bundesliga. It's the top German league. It's not the lower levels, but
he wasn't. But Leipzig was not a top level German team. They're not Bayern Munich or Leverkusen or Dortmund. They're not. They're Leipzig. They had a couple of years where they were good when they had the right mix. It was never going to work at Man United. They have no midfield. No midfield. Leipzig was quick strike, everybody up the field, everybody back. Well, you can't do that with older players, and you're not going to be able to do it with superstar like guys who are high-end talents. They're just not going to do that.
Defenders like Harry Maguire.
Harry Maguire sucks. Shaw sucks. They're all they're a disaster.
I was about to say. I mean, he's not the answer there, and they're going to keep him. And I think Ronaldo wants to leave.
They're not going to keep him. They are not going to keep him. He'll be gone after this year. Ragnick will be gone after this year, guaranteed.
I think Ronaldo's going to be gone after this year.
I firmly believe that also. There's rumors that Zidane wants to reunite him at PSG after the season because PSG is going to lose Mbappe to Real Madrid, and they want to play Ronaldo and Messi. Tell me that's not must-watch TV. Tell me you wouldn't watch that.
Could you imagine having on the same pitch for the same team Neymar, Ronaldo, and Messi all out there at the same time? Jesus Christ.
I don't think they'd win.
It's a dream. It's a dream. It's a dream for all footballing fans. You don't think they would win?
No, because Ronaldo is not the player he used to be. Neither is Messi, and neither is Neymar. They're all in their 30s now. Maybe Neymar's 28, 29. He's been injury prone. Messi is nowhere near the player he used to be.
Yeah, Neymar's 30.
Okay, so there you go. Messi's 33. Ronaldo's 37. I mean, sorry. So, I mean, and I love Cristiano Ronaldo, and I respect Neymar and Messi, but, you know, it's a young man's game. It's just too physical. It's remarkable, actually, what Ronaldo has been able to do this year just with his training and athleticism to still be productive at that level. Messi just fallen off the planet because he just doesn't have that level of athleticism. Just doesn't.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think that Cristiano still has the ability to play. He doesn't get enough support in the way. And Man United has been just a cluster for years. I mean, since Ronaldo has left, they've really struggled and they've never had the right mix there. And now I think you do have some talented spots, like your Bruno Fernandes is talented. You know, Sancho's coming on. He's starting to play well. I can't remember who's the new young kid they've got playing real well for him. Enganata. I can't remember his name, Grump.
I know now since you said it, I can't remember. Yes, a guy with an E. He scored a couple of goals. He's a young player. But here's the thing. I watched their game against a really bad Watford team the other day, and none of them could control the ball. Every touch was heavy. Ball just bouncing away from them. Just Pogba was terrible. Fernandez was terrible. They were all terrible. The only guy who could control a ball come to was Ronaldo.
Eglantina.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not Tina. It's not Tina at the end.
Okay, it is Tina at the end. I'm looking right at it, but that's fine.
All right. Okay. But it's just a bad mix. It's just a bad mix. They have no midfield. None.
It didn't actually autocorrect the spell on it. It's Elangan. I don't know, Grumpy. I couldn't pronounce his name. I don't watch enough. I can't tell you. I haven't watched enough of the Man United games as of recent, so I'll butcher the name some other time. I'll have to I'll have to listen to how it's pronounced. Getting back to some comments here, though, Grump. Drew said, I decided. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, I missed one earlier. He said, like, I'm going to reveal some personal information, but I've been struggling socially all my life, and I've been diagnosed with a medical disorder on it too. But it's not going to stop me from improving. I've decided to receive, professional help on the matter, this year to better myself and help, me out in life. So yeah, they're going to be, so yeah, there you go. The bombshell is dropped. You know, I'm not going to go whining about it on social media about my struggles and that difference. Yeah, I tell you, it's Grump. I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah, I am very social. I never let anything really affect me. And Drew, as long as you feel good about yourself, nothing else matters. Absolutely nothing else matters. The only person you have to worry about is the one who's staring you back in the mirror every day. So Don't worry about what anybody else thinks about you. It does not matter.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's easier said than done. But once you get to a point where you do feel, you know, comfortable about yourself like that, it always does help. Got it. Bean said, disagree, TJ. I don't miss being in large groups with people who do not cover their mouth and nose when they sneeze. LOL. Talking about well, I mean, even just like you talk now we're kind of getting back to a little bit of what normalcy was. But I mean, when COVID first had started, there was no going out to eat in a restaurant. There was no going out anywhere. You couldn't go to the parks. You couldn't go here. You couldn't go there. You literally had to go. If you were an essential worker, you went to work. You can go to the grocery store. Then you had to go right to the house. It wasn't gyms were closed. You couldn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah. No. It is what it is. I didn't let it affect me too much, but you know, I am who I am, though.
Tony Hopenny says, I don't know. I could go a couple weeks without speaking to people.
Yeah, I can too.
And then John P said, I agreed. We spoke about this prior. The Godfather 1 and 2, the greatest movies of all time.
I was really hoping, I would love to see them play The Godfather Part 2, the newly restored version right after, because I mean, I was pumped. The transfer was spectacular, just was. That film has never looked better than it did today.
Elanga is his name.
Elanga, that's it.
That's the kid from Man United. Elanga. Okay. My God. I couldn't think how the hell to pronounce his name. And I was like, I couldn't picture it in my head either. Drew L says here, great move by the Giants. Get this Danny Derps guy out of there. Yeah, Danny Dimes, and you know, Daniel Jones is not good. He's not a quarterback that's going to ever say, I feel confident that he could lead us down the field to win. People always will say, well, he's never played with the full healthy cast and crew out there. At some point, though, nobody ever plays in perfect conditions where everybody's healthy. Quarterbacks always have to deal with injuries on their star players and injuries to linemen, injuries to wide receivers, running backs, doesn't matter. You got to be able to eventually overcome that. And he's never shown the ability to do that.
He's not the answer for the Giants, period.
No, he's not. I mean, he's a turnover machine. Whether it comes via interceptions or fumbles, the guy's a turnover machine, right? He turns over the balls like plane, trains, and automobiles. Doesn't matter how he's coming, he's turning the football over. Danny Dimes. John P. said, Grumpy old man, yes, I'm older, LOL. I turned 59 yesterday. Well, happy birthday there, John.
Happy birthday, John. You're still younger than I am.
Tony Hopenny says, Wentz has those Namath legs. And Indianapolis just needs some wide receivers. I was about to say Pittman played well, but T.Y. Hilton just not utilized. He's finished, right? T.Y. Hilton went from a guy who was super talented to just fell off the earth so quick with the injuries.
Pittman Jr. is pretty good. Paris Campbell, if he could stay healthy, is maybe an option. But yes, but they need a quarterback too. Do you really trust him to make all the throws? Wentz, obviously, Indy doesn't. So they're going to, and they're a team that's also ready to win right now. So I think there's going to be quarterback movement. I think what you're seeing last year and the year before with Brady and then with Stafford and guys changing teams, quarterbacks, I think that can be, it's going to be something we see a lot more than we have in the past.
And you're right. Indianapolis is a team to where we've mentioned it before. Running backs do not have a long shelf life, and Jonathan Taylor is killing it right now in the NFL. And right, what do you think? He's going to be in the peak of his career for another 3 years maximum, and then you're going to start to see him slowly start to tail off. Just how it works.
It's a tough position to play.
Unbelievably tough position to play. John P. said, just messaged you the link of the 22 notable players who retired or retired early. Let's just look through some of these, Grump, because I am interested here. And again, he did say that Gronk did come out of retirement, but Luke Kuechly, number one on the list, Rob Gronkowski, Andrew Luck, Gale Sayers.
Injuries, the knee injuries.
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown is one who retired, just like Barry Sanders, not injured, but retired at the top of their games. Absolutely.
Barry Sanders, here that is. Calvin Johnson was more
Another
the
one.
injuries. Tiki Barber.
Yeah.
How old was Tiki Barber when he retired?
I don't think he was 30. Earl Campbell was just beaten to death by the time he retired. He had to retire.
You look at, you see him now too. He comes, they occasionally go ahead and bring him out to the Texas Longhorn games. And I can't remember what documentary it is, but you see him like working on rehab just to be able to walk, to do a coin flip at the beginning of the season. And you think to yourself, I'm like, man,
he was such a good back for a few years with Houston. He was finished by the time he went to New Orleans. Just totally finished.
And we also mentioned about Tiki Barber. As soon as Tiki retired, the Giants won the Super Bowl, if I'm thinking of that correct, right?
I
think it was right after he retired, the Giants won the Super Bowl.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. He retired and they won the Super Bowl that next year. Yes.
Billy Sims.
Knee injuries as well. Terrell Davis. I think he had some injuries too with concussion. Chris Borland, linebacker. He was a guy he was a guy I remembered. Yeah,
he's recent too. He's recent.
Yeah, only played like a year or two and then quit.
Yeah, the 3rd round pick. That's right. Yeah, after an excellent rookie season, he retired. Or maybe it was after 1 year.
And gave the money back, whatever it was. Lynn Swann. To me, he was always overrated. I never thought he was that good. Patrick Willis
on that list.
I don't know.
I'm not sure who this is. Played free safety. Concerns of a concussion. Yeah, you're just seeing a lot of players doing that recently. Anthony Davis. Yeah. There it is.
Yeah, he wasn't any good either. So, that has something to do with it as well. Rashad Mendenhall, running back.
Yeah.
Running backs are tough because their careers are so short. DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
He never panned out, though, either.
No.
He was a guy, you look at it, right? DeBrickashaw Ferguson, he was drafted early in that draft, too. My goodness.
Went to Virginia Tech. Christian Okoye. He was another guy, though. Once, hard running style and, older. Icky Woods. Okay. And he couldn't play also with it. I'll tell you what. I love and you're seeing a resurgence of the Icky Woods commercial for Geico.
Oh yeah, where he goes and he's like, and they pull the hand, and it's like, what do they call? I can't remember.
Number 44, ladies, that's me. He's like, and he does the dance, and Icky's even put on some LB since that commercial, and he does the dance, and he slaps whatever he's got. Looks like some cheese. He slaps it down to the ground. I laugh at that every time I see it. I just love that commercial. I'm so glad that Icky Woods could laugh at himself and what he's done. I think that's great. That's one of my favorite commercials. Every time it's on, I stop, and I don't watch commercials because I find them insulting for the most part. But that commercial, I absolutely love, and I watch it, and I stop to watch it every time it comes on. I love it.
I wish they would redo it, though. A similar commercial, but they would redo it because I remember that commercial. How old is that commercial, Grump? I remember watching that commercial when I was younger, too.
I don't think Icky can do the shuffle anymore. It looks like he's put on at least another 30 pounds from that commercial.
No, he could do the shuffle. He could shuffle side to side like that. Come on now.
And then do the hopping on one thing. I think his knee might cave in. And then slap it down. No, 44, ladies, that's me. Gonna get some cold cuts. Yeah, ladies, gonna get myself some cold cuts today. Woo! That's great. Love it. I don't like I said, I know it's Geico, but I'm like, man, whatever product he's selling, I'm buying. The other commercial I think is fantastic. Alex Smith does a commercial right now for some type of shoe, which makes it easy on his legs. If people remember the quarterback for
the brutal injury for the Washington Redskins at the time.
They show the leg in all its grotesqueness on the commercial, and he's saying how this has helped him and his day-to-day life and his legs just wearing that shoe. And I hope it works for him. I really do. I hope he's just not saying it to make money, but that's a powerful commercial.
It's more powerful than Brett Favre with his copper fit. I used to not be able to reach my arms over my shoulder and throw with the copper fit. I think. And the Wrangler jeans.
Jerry Rice.
Favre. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice does the copper fit too. Who doesn't love that?
They strike me as being in for the money, but that's a powerful commercial with Alex Smith. Really is.
Jewel says, Sasikas goal. Islanders up 2-0. Wow. Islanders. Ugh, they don't understand how to tank. Meatball Parm says when Barzal signs a 10-year contract with the Flyers in a couple of years, we'll need a wellness check on Grumpy. Well, they'll sign a 7-year Grumpy, and then we will need a wellness check on you.
He cannot go to the Flyers. No.
Happy birthday, Sezikis. Ross Johnston with a nice assist.
Yes, he's playing for Matt Martin today.
And then Warzone Warlord, aka Warzone Senior Citizen, says here Dobson is a superstar.
With that, he's on his way.
And John P was saying, yeah, Loyola University Chicago was a team a few years ago. Loyola Marymount. Oh, okay, he's in California. I knew I mixed them up. They made an Elite Eight.
That's right. Did I say Loyola Marymount?
I think I said Loyola Marymount. I don't know. Yeah, Loyola University Chicago. I remember they always had, and they had done well a few years before, and they'd done well again, I think last year, 2 years ago, and they had the really old nun or something like that that they would wheel out who was there during COVID. I think so even last year.
And the Loyola Marymount team was a really good story back in the 90s because, and I don't know if it was the season, they had Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers as two players on the team, and they were really good. I think they were coached by Paul Westhead, who used to coach the Lakers and got bounced by Magic Johnson. But I think it was the year where Hank Gathers died on the court. He had a heart ailment and he died on the court. And Bo Kimball led them, I think it was to the Elite Eight. I believe it was the same year, but that was a really touching story also. I mean, you saw Hank Gathers was an impressive physical specimen, but he had a heart defect and he died on the floor during a game. It's like, ugh.
I remember we've talked about that on this show before too in the past. BB says private schools are small with tuitions from $50,000 to $75,000 a year. What do you expect? Yeah, my God, $50,000 to $75,000 a year. Tony Hopenny says I'm surprised he pronounced poignant right yesterday. Hey, I know a few words there.
You know a lot of words, TJ. They're just not ones that we know.
BB says, TJ, why are you making fun of your reading comprehension and enunciation? Because we read a whole bunch of comments on the other one, and I'll usually stumble over words, and it's a running joke.
Yeah,
it's all in good fun.
Yeah, it's all just a joke.
John P says, FYI, 2-0 Isles. Casey Zika scored number 2. Sorokin has made a couple stellar saves thus far as well.
He's the man.
There it is. He's the
man. What about a couple of those goals that Varlamov let in yesterday? Ugh, everyone's saying, oh, I'm glad we got Varley back. Yeah, how'd that look? The one that was like going 3 miles an hour goes between his legs off a face-off. Boo.
Alexander says Messi will come to the States.
That would be a good move for whatever team signs him. He'll be very, very productive in the United States because
he'll be loved. You want to talk about the amount, I mean, the fans that you would have that would come and flock to the team would be unbelievable. I mean, gosh almighty, maybe one day. I've always said in the past, I mean, MLS is not where it was back, in the 80s, right, Grumpy? Or when was Pele with the MLS? 70s?
The 70s. The 70s.
70s to the early 80s? Okay.
Yep.
70s.
Yep. And, it was one team that had all the good players, and they signed a lot of guys who were past their prime. The bottom line is there's not enough scoring in soccer to make it where the United States is going to be a really super huge market for it. Because you might have your Messis come in, you might have your Ronaldos come in, or whoever. Wayne Rooney came in for a while, but at the end of the day, Americans like more scoring. They just do. 1-0 is not what they're looking for. Unfortunately, because I think soccer is a great game, really is.
And then Warzone Senior Citizen says it matters what grumpy old man thinks about the armadillo. Talking about Barry Trotz.
I thought after last night, I said, "Man, sounds like the team has quit on him." But then they come out, looks like they're producing today. I'm surprised.
Maybe Anaheim thought this team was done, dead to rights, and they thought they could just walk in with an easy win, and that's not the case.
We get all the backups though. Backup goalies. All the backup goalies the Islanders get. Not afraid of us.
Alexander saying, I stand with you, Drew. Good luck and stay blessed. Yes. Absolutely. And then Tony Hopenny says, that's how Josh Bailey gets through life. I bet he loves himself unconditionally. Drew L said, oh yeah, I've been long gone of not loving myself, and I'm feeling great, Grandpa TJ. That's good to hear.
Thank goodness.
Absolutely. Just know it's a skill I need to work on. It's just nothing to do with insecurity.
We are rooting for you, Drew. We're rooting for you all the way.
Absolutely. And Alexander says Scarface better than The Godfather.
Oh my God, Alexander. Come on now. Come on. No, please. Why don't we would have been better off just telling me that your uncle thought that Scarface was better than The Godfather. Because he's wrong on everything.
I've never actually seen Scarface.
Really?
I've seen The Godfather. I've never seen Scarface. So I can't pass judgment.
Pacino is real good at chewing scenery in that one. Over the top, playing a Cuban refugee. I
know he's got to say hello to my little friend, and he's standing up on like a
hello to my little friend. I mean, that's some gun.
Yeah, he's just firing nonstop. Drew is saying here, average Anders is cashed. He can't even skate the same anymore. Absolutely.
He can't. So I guess he's been elevated on the line then too. If your third line is going to be Bellows, Wallstrom, and Pajot, that means that somehow Anders Lee, with his below average play, is somehow once again moving into the top six.
Remember, the centers are different, so I'm not sure if Pajot got moved to a top six role. I'm not sure. I didn't see the lineups today because remember, Matt Perzal's at. Tony Hopenny said, "What's TJ's favorite movie? Shrek? No, I like okay. If I'm just talking an enjoyable movie to watch, I like Kung Fu Panda. It's a good movie. I like Kung Fu Panda.
That's your favorite movie of all time?
It's a good movie. I like Kung Fu Panda. I encourage you to go back and watch Kung Fu Panda. It's a good one.
I'd feel better. I'd feel a little bit better if you would have said something even like Apocalypse Now or All the President's Men, something like that. But Kung Fu Panda?
Kung Fu Panda. Kung Fu Panda. How could you not like Kung Fu Panda? B. Bean says Loyola sister Jean was born in August 21st of 1919. She's 102 years old. Ooh.
Wow. Congratulations, Sister Jean.
Absolutely.
I ain't living that long.
And then John P. said, yes, Grumpy Old Man, you're correct in regards to Hank Gathers. So
and
sad.
he used to be left-handed, and I remember Bo Kimball came out, and he would shoot his first free throw of the game left-handed. And he sunk it. I remember that. It was really, I mean, just poignant stuff, really touching when you see that, the love.
I've never heard you in our how long have we been podcasting for? You've never used the word poignant, and Tony Hopenny comes out there and says it in a comment, and you use it immediately the same night up. You have never used that word, not a
what can I say? I use it properly, so that's why I used it. Okay. You're right, but the word poignant and this podcast really seems out of place. But I just thought I'd throw it out there because I thought it was apropos at this time.
Oh, looky there. Flaunt your vocabulary. Alexander says, do we really give credit to Lou for the Wallstrom and Dobson pick? Absolutely not. Nope. He's right. Scarface is very good. Godfather 1 and 2 were unparalleled cinematic genius.
I watched it today. And, I know all the lines, and I had to control myself in a crowded theater not to say them. But, I mean, I'm smiling. I'm so happy, even at scenes where it's like, oh, my God, I can't believe you're smiling at that. But just how good the scenes were. And I even saw something today, like the scene where at the beginning, at the wedding scene, they had the old man get up there singing, the suggestive song, his teeth fall out of his mouth for a second. I never saw that before. His teeth come down, his false teeth fall out of his mouth, and they pop back in during singing that song. I'm like, holy crap. Every time I watch that movie, I learn something new. It was so good. And my son was with me today, and he's like, there was a scene where, and if you haven't seen the movie, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, when Tom Hagen tells Don Vito that Sonny had been shot and killed on the causeway, that Tom Hagen was crying. And I'd never noticed that before either, because the high def kind of gives you that, oh shit, I didn't even notice that. And Pacino had a pimple up here early, right here. I'm like, what the hell, man? He's got a pimple there. And then he had one over here later. It's like, just shows to show you, hey, that's what you look like. That's what you look like on that day of shooting. I mean, it was just fantastic. What a great, great movie, great storytelling. They just don't make movies like that anymore. Sorry.
Oh my God.
That's the shooting the shit portion of the program.
I'm just happy we've avoided some other topic that you've managed to make always rounds on it. Don't make it now just because we've said it. Don't control yourself, Grumpy. Control yourself, Grumpy.
I did go after the movie. I went to a bookstore, which I haven't been to a bookstore in forever. because, they've had these mask rules and I just don't wear a mask. So I'm just like, screw it. I'm not going. They had the mask restrictions off. I bought a magazine about Tom Brady and his retirement.
Okay,
I had to get it.
Done. Moving right along. Warzone saying here, Americans like more scoring. Have no fear. Barry Trotz is Canadian, so we have to worry about it.
There you go.
Oh man. Alexander says if there's anyone that can bring Messi, it's Beckham. And they can bring him there to South Florida. He's vacationed to South Florida a few times before that. I know that's why they get tied, or he gets tied to playing in the MLS. But Drill says much love, Alexander. Sorry, Grumpy. LOL. I'm Spanish, I guess. Or he said it's because I'm Spanish, is what he says. That's why he likes Scarface more.
Well, but Tony Montana was Cuban, not Spanish.
B Bean says, TJ, you must watch Scarface this week and give us your review next Sunday. Ooh,
That's not going to happen.
I was about to say, I'm not sure about that. And then
it's a little long. There's 247 F-bombs dropped by Al Pacino in that movie.
Alexander says, when you see Anders Lee skate, just think of the Benny Hill music. Yeah. TJ, Kung Fu Panda laughing faces crying.
Except for the last one. Not the last one. Was like, I think he was dying.
I don't know what that is. That's a dead one.
It's not good.
I have an excuse I can watch that with my kids at least. Oh, good gracious. Oh man. Druel says here, TJ Grump, you're going to find this funny. I practically killed myself today playing Pokemon Go. I started at 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. because of an event, and it was worth 100%. I took 20,000 steps yesterday.
Wow. I do about 20,000 steps a day or close to it, 17, 18,000. I remember during the Super Bowl when Tom Brady and the Patriots beat the Atlanta Falcons, I had 27,000 steps that day from pacing the whole game.
My goodness.
That's a lot of steps in a day.
And then Drew said the only time he took a break was for 30-minute lunch break the entire time. BB says here, my favorite scene was Michael's first kill in the restaurant.
So many subtleties in that movie, just facial inflections, watching Diane Keaton, how she reacts to things that Michael tells her, even right at the front end, talking about Luca Brasi, and just the look on her face. It's priceless. It's acting at its finest. So many talented performers early in their careers. Robert Duvall was spectacular. You learned everything about every character the first 3 minutes, the first 30 seconds that each character is on the screen. You see Clemenza. He's just gregarious, dancing out there, drinking wine. And that was his character. You see, Tom Hagen just being reserved. You see Don Corleone being, understanding. I mean, it was so good. Just classic storytelling. Just fantastic.
Absolutely. And then we love
Alexander. It is way better, way better than Scarface. No, and I love Al Pacino, right? Love Al Pacino. No. Just watching how Michael in the first movie turns from, a regular person and to how cold he gets towards the end. And then you saw it certainly over Godfather Part 2, just totally cold and solitary throughout the whole movie. It's just tremendous acting.
And then Drew says, freaking backwards logic, Barry Trotz Canadians. I'm loving joking, though Canada is cool. I've been there before. Alexander says, Grump, Cuban is Hispanic.
You said you were Spanish, like you're from Spain.
Yeah, he said I'm Spanish, I guess. Yeah. So, or maybe I'm Hispanic. I don't know. He said it's a fan fight. We'll look at that here another day because we're towards the end, Grumpy. We'll have to save that for another day.
I love fan fights. Alexander is so good about the fan fights. I love Alexander. He's fantastic.
We'll have to put that in the bag. We'll have to put
even
that in the bag.
Even though he knows nothing about cinema, I still love him.
John P here says, in regards to The Godfather, my father was an executive chef and a restaurant owner in New York for 38 years. My father couldn't stand wise guys because they gave Italians bad name. I have some real life La Casa, what is that, Grump?
La Cosa Nostra
stories that you would appreciate.
I worked for a guy who used to be a button man for the mob. Nice guy. Great guy. Really, really, really nice guy. But hey, like I said, I knew a lot of people like that growing up. A lot.
And Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
Sleeps with the fishes. Yep.
Says, no, I'm Colombian and Dominican. Laughing faces. But thanks, Grump. You guys are awesome. And a butt man, BB says, what the butt man? He wants to know.
Means the boss wants you to push a button. You push a button. You kill him.
There you go. Hitman, Grump. For those.
Yep, Hitman.
Familiar. But Grumpy, we're here towards the end of the podcast today. What do you want to say before we wrap things up?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. We appreciate you listening, and we love everybody out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for taking the time here, having a good time on a Sunday evening, talking sports, talking things around the world, just having a good time shooting shit. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And thank you again, as always, for your time, Grump.
My pleasure.